Good afternoon, everyone. How are you doing today? Today we're going to start out with our little education thing, is the way we do each time. And I'm going to get right to it. But it would help if I hit share screen first. I want to make this a little bit smaller. Let's see if it does. So somebody give me a heads up. When I do it full screen, can you see the whole thing? Okay. And pause share, but then I lose all my controls. All right. Yeah, that's all I have to do. All right, let's start out. Cross-filing is the first of our confusing terms and issues. People asked for an explanation, so that's what I'm doing. Wait a minute. Go back. I'm sorry. I cannot, it's always something with me. I'm sorry.
Adrian, when you're in present mode, are you able to just use the little arrows on your keyboard to move to the next slides?
Let's try it again. Thank you guys for help. That's why I love community. Stand Up for Lower Merion and Narberth presents Clarifying Confusing Terms and Issues. The first term we have is cross-filing. And this is something that candidates can run as both a Democrat or a Republican, and a Republican. School district and magisterial justice and district magisterial justices are the only offices that allow candidates to cross-file. Somehow, higher level judges cannot. They think that the idea is supposed to be that these offices are non-political, but judges' offices should be non-political too. But if you want to cross-file, which it's too late to do now because the petition period ended on the 9th, somebody from the opposing party has to agree to collect signatures for the candidate on the petition papers. It also gives candidates a greater chance to get on the ballot in the general election. Does anybody have any questions on it? Go, Kim.
So this is really hard for me to wrap my arms around. Not the fact of why, but why would they need signatures? That's what I don't understand. And what is, okay. I guess I understand the benefit for the Republicans. I don't necessarily get what the benefit for the Democrats. I don't know. It just feels not kosher.
Okay. First of all, any candidate has to collect signatures to get on the ballot. I am running for judge of elections. I had to get signatures so that I am on the ballot. So that answers the first part of your question. The second part of your question is, you have to think of this a little more globally than just Lower Merion, because in some districts, it's not In Lower Merion, Narberth, being a Democrat almost guarantees you that winning the race. And in other areas, it doesn't. So, for example, on the Republican ballot for school board, the Republicans are only running 3 candidates, but there's 4 positions. So Mary Brown, who's a Democrat and has done this before, new to cross-file, so she's virtually guaranteed a win on the Republican ticket. She's not necessarily guaranteed a win on the Democratic ticket. So it gives her a greater chance to get on the ballot in the general election. I personally think that all the candidates should do that to add confusion to both sides and not just one.
Adrian and Lisa, I have a quick question about that. Does it,
You're breaking up, Lisa.
I'm gonna put it in the chat.
Okay. But now that I'm screen sharing, I can't see the chat. Maybe someone else could go on the chat and
When it shows up, I'll read it.
yeah, thank you.
Are there downsides to cross-filing? Because I know in the, oh wait, here's Lisa's question, so ignore mine for now. Lisa asked, does the ballot designate if the candidate is Republican or Democrat?
No, because they would be on the Democratic ballot and the Republican ballot. So only by talking to your party would you find out which ones are the Democrats and which ones are the Republicans. Was that it?
Yeah, that was her question. And then I wonder, and I think Jerry talked about this in our last one of these forums, you know, are there downsides for a candidate who decides to cross-file in terms of the support they may get from their party?
Yeah, a little bit. Mary Brown, who has cross-filed before and then has actually run as a Republican and gotten their endorsement, it's frowned upon in the Democratic Party in our local, just as an FYI. They would suggest that you don't run against their endorsed or the candidates that got the most votes. That's a behind the scenes type of thing that they would never say aloud.
And that's probably also part of why they push the endorsement so much, so that, you know, because we have Republicans now cross-filed on the ballot. So for them to say, but we endorse these people, as opposed to individually talking to people more about each candidate.
But there are 4 positions and there's only 3 endorsed candidates. So there'll be some issues there.
Lisa also said there's been discussion on one of the Facebook groups about districting Lower Merion to have 2 or 3 candidates from each magisterial district. Would love to hear more about this and what the process would be to change the current system.
I saw that, and I think there's a lot more work that we need to do to get the school board. I don't know how they would divide it. There's no. I asked about the cat. There used to be a map on the school district site that showed the catchments. So how would they divide these regions? Would it include, for example, all of Penn Wynne, Penn Valley, and another elementary school? How does that break down? Because the catchment areas do not necessarily go to the same middle school. So I can't see how that would be helpful with the way that we currently have the kids moving from elementary to middle to high school. And I understand I would have to take a peek and see where the candidates are all from, what areas. But I think it tends to be kind of, they're all around from anywhere, everywhere anyway. And I see it as just being something that would make it more of a split than more of a unifying thing. So that's just my opinion on that. Oh, thank you. I have been looking all over it. I knew it was there when I ran for school board. I had it and was trying to figure stuff out, but thank you. I'll look at that later. Okay. Permanent voter status. If you go online to check your voting status, this is what'll come up. It'll have your name, your address up here. And it says, are you a permanent voter? It says no for me. It also tells me what voting districts I'm in and my county board of election contact information. And it also has below here, but I only wanted to take your election day polling place. So it's a good thing to check just to make sure you have chosen the party that you want. If you do want to vote for candidates in the primary, you have to be registered Democratic or Republican. We'll go into more of that under the ballot questions slide. The title permanent voter is misleading. The status has to do with applying for a ballot. It means that the county will send you a letter reminding you to apply for a ballot and an application that you would fill out and mail back. You would only be, if you have that permanent voter status, you only need to apply once a year to receive a ballot for the elections for the remainder of the year. So if you have that ballot thing checked off and it says permanent voter, yes, you only need to apply for a ballot at the beginning of the year, which would be for the primary, mostly. If you are a permanent voter and you did get sent an application, you don't have to use the one that was sent to you. You can apply online, so you don't have to do the mail. I think annual application would be a more accurate title. And regardless, do not forget to apply for your mail-in ballot if you want to do that at this point in time, whether you're a permanent voter or not. So the key here is to apply for your ballot if you want to do mail-in. And here's the websites to check for your voter registration and to apply for an absentee ballot. These will be in the recording, so you don't have to write them down right this second. Another thing happening is there's a survey being taken by the Senate, the Pennsylvania Senate, the Special Committee on Election Integrity and Reform. And they want you to, if you did mail-in, take this survey, and if you did in person, take this survey. And this is very important for people who like mail-in ballots to take this survey, because the Senate, that Senate committee is run by people who don't, even though they voted for it unanimously, all of a sudden do not like mail-in ballots. So I think that's an important thing to do. Here are the links to it. Here's the link to the mail-in ballot survey. And they ask you for your suggestions, and just to get your brain, in gear for some suggestions. One of the suggestions should be to rename permanent ballot to annual application, or to allow pre-canvassing, not counting before election day, so the actual counting can be at 7 a.m. on election day. Pre-canvassing means they get the ballots, it's in the envelope, they check your name, rank, and serial number to it, they open it up, they take it out of they throw what we did when we counted the absentee ballots and the polling location was we take it out of the ballot, the envelope that had the name on it, and then throw them all in a pile and mix them up so we didn't know whose was whose. Then open them out, straighten them out so they're all ready to run through the high-speed scanners at 7 a.m. on election day. And that would give us results a lot faster. What takes all the time is checking and opening up those envelopes and straightening out the ballot, unfolding it. And if you voted in person, suggestions could be increasing the number of polling areas in locations that have long wait times. So. And I think I'm done. Any questions before I'm going to stop screen sharing? Okay, and we're back. I have no one.
Were you going to share about the ballot measures?
Yeah, we're going to talk about those
Okay.
in a separate thing. Escape. Thank you. All right. So Kim, was that you that said
Yeah.
ballot measures?
No, that was Zandra. I have a quick question about the mail-in balloting because this is very confusing.
Go ahead.
And had I not seen someone post a couple of weeks ago, when I signed up for mail-in, I signed up to permanently get mail-in. I had no idea that you would have to fill something out. And I would likely, had I not seen that, probably just tossed thinking it was junk mail. So if people aren't aware of this and they don't respond either online or mail it back in,
Right.
when they go to the the actual polling place thinking, oh crap, I never got my ballot, will they need to bring anything like like you would if you decided to vote in person after
No, because
requesting?
there's records there that show whether an application was done or a mail-in ballot was sent. So in the case of no application, no ballot would be sent, so they would just vote regular. Okay.
Thank you.
And that's really a question that only a judge of election might know. Yeah, Roz?
I just put a question in the chat, but it's about the surveys. I mean, they have to, if I wasn't tuned in today and you told me about this survey, how would I know about it? Did they send them out to everybody? No.
No, they don't do things like that. I found out, I think I found out through the League of Women Voters, or I might have seen it in, I don't remember exactly where I saw it, but I found out about it. I think I saw it on Twitter, to be perfectly honest. I think that was the thing that the committee sent out. Okay, so if we want to do, I have my presentation links here. I am going to I'm going to share the screen again. And we're going to get to the ballot questions. So I went to vote411.org ballot, and it asks you what your address is, so it knows you're in Pennsylvania. So let me go back. All right. I forgot when I moved out of this, it changed it. Okay, there's 3 constitutional amendments. This is the order they'll be in the ballot. The first one has to do with the termination or extension of disaster emergency declarations. I'm not going to read this whole thing. You know, you can go to vote 411 and all this information is there. All right. I'm going to just give you a little background. The amendment arises from the conflict between the governor and the legislature over the governor's COVID-19 emergency declarations, including the stay-at-home order and all that stuff. The governor the legislature passed a concurrent resolution to end the governor's emergency declaration. The governor vetoed it. The legislature then had an option to override the veto, but that failed because there weren't enough votes. So whenever the governor does a veto, the assembly has an option to override that veto if there's enough votes. There wasn't. So the legislature got their panties in a twist and said, well, we got to change the rules for this because we didn't win. And it's an overreach by the legislature, basically. So, and then here it'll have your for and your against. And I think anybody reading this, the fors and against, can decide for themselves. Let's do the next one. Now, this one is very similar to the first one, but it says that a disaster emergency will automatically expire after 21 days, regardless of how severe it is. And what that does is then puts it in the hands of the assembly. So if we're in the middle of the emergency, we then have to count on 253 people kind of agreeing, or at least half of them agreeing to continue this on. And that will create confusion. It creates logistical and administrative problems. And again, it changes the customary legislative procedure that requires a 2/3 legislative vote to override the governor's disaster declaration. So it's kind of the same thing, a little bit of an overreach. And then the third one, which I think is really problematic, I'm going to read it. Shall the Pennsylvania Constitution be amended by adding a new section providing that the equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged because of an individual's race or ethnicity? I want to emphasize that emphasis on individual is mine, because when you first read it, it looks like a no-brainer. But then if you focus on individual, you realize it could be an individual of any race, not just minorities, which can lead to reverse racism claims. So I am, there it is, opens doors to individual claims. And there already is protections under the US Constitution and federal law. And this ballot measure does absolutely nothing to expand those protections. There's nothing in there saying that gays and lesbians and LGBTQIA plus, I think I got them all, would not be discriminated, which is allowable in Pennsylvania. So I suggest reading the Vote 411 and then going through. And if you do have any questions, you can always write to me. You can go onto the Stand Up for Lower Merion Narberth Facebook page, put a question in there, email us at, what is our actual email address? I have too many so that I always get, it's standuplowermerion@gmail.com. I'll put that in the chat. It doesn't have to be all caps. That was, I had cap lock going. So that's just, if you like want to discuss it and whatever, then that's something that I think that you can always get in touch with me. But I think the League of Women Voters thing explains it pretty well. Okay. Registration status. Okay. I think coupled with the question that we had on cross-filing, let me show you this. This is from Montgomery County, and it is their listing of the candidates running on the Democratic ballot. And this was, they put all these numbers in a hat and draw them out, and whatever number you get is where you are on the ballot. So they're in alphabetical order listed here, but you could see that Anna would be first and Kerry would be last on the ballot. So this showed, what this doesn't tell you is Christina Fink, who I affectionately call Miss 1621, since she arranged buses down to the Capitol for that rally. Oh, yes, she arranged a bus from Lower Merion and Upper Merion to go down to that rally in front of the Capitol. So she's running for school board. So I think most people would want to know about that if they're voting, because she's going to be in the top 3. And ballot position is important because people that don't know who's who will generally check off 1, 2, 3. And if we check off 1, 2, 3, you're going to have 2 Republicans on there. For the Democratic, wait a minute. Norristown. Where's the Republican? You know what? I think if there are as many people as there are slots, oh, that's the door. Sorry about that. Scared me. If there's 4 slots, then they don't do any ballot positions because you really can vote for 4 and there are 4, because there's nothing in here like for commissioners, because there's nobody running against anybody. So there's that. And what else? And if you go on to Montco elections, you'll get to the page and it'll show the unofficial candidate list, which includes everybody, even if there's nobody running against them. The primary candidate withdrawal list, which has Gloria Ackman on it. And the last page that I showed you, the primary drawing for ballot position results. So that is there. Any questions on anything that I've gone over so far? I'm looking. Go ahead, Kim.
Sorry, I'm chatty Kathy.
Oh, no, I used to say when I talk cooking, don't be afraid to ask a question, because you're helping out the one person who is too shy to ask it.
All right, so I keep going back to the endorsement process and the cross-filing. I had no idea that someone that was running on the Republican, well, I should have thought about it, but makes it really complicated. And so when you say that people should know that
Yeah, she's
Miss
missed
Fink
four. She's missed 1/6.
But how would people know that? I mean,
We
had
have to get it, information out there.
and what ways? I mean, obviously, what you do.
I know that the Democratic Party is working on doing something. I want to bring something up because I talked to a lot of people. All right. And one of the things that I think was problematic that we have this marigold that just lists all the endorsed candidates. I don't think that that is something that is helpful. And it's confusing for people. I mean, they had something last time that said fill in the 7 bubbles, but it had 11 bubbles on it. So this is from a Democratic sample ballot from the general election from Chester County. And what they did is they made up, instead of a marigold, they have the whole ballot there, and they have big D's next to the endorsed candidates. And I'm suggesting that Lower Merion Dems do something similar. They have been open to my suggestion. It's like I almost fainted, but I said to put big D's like this next to the Democrats that are endorsed, put little D's next to the Democrats that are just Democrats but not endorsed, and put R's next to the Republicans, little R's next to the Republicans. So this will look just like your ballot. So when you get a copy of this, you can look at it, look at your ballot, you know exactly what to do and where they are. And you don't have to figure out where this person is in the whole list of people. Yes, Zendra.
This is, I guess it's sort of related to the cross-filing confusion stuff, but I'm wondering, because I know you have to be registered either as a Democrat or a Republican to vote in the primary. So if, like Mary Brown, you're a Democrat, but you cross-file to get on the Republican ballot, to be able to vote for yourself, do you have to change your registration?
No, because she's on both ballots, so she can still vote.
Okay.
But if she didn't change her, if she changed her registration, you can still only vote on one ballot. There will be 3 ballots when you go to vote. You will only get one of the 3, but there'll be a Democratic ballot, a Republican ballot, and an all others ballot that will just have the questions on it. So there'll be 3 different ballots, which is just, administrative for the poll workers. You'll come in, you'll sign your name, we'll see it has a D, Democrat or Republican or third party or independent or unaffiliated. You can really choose anything as your party. My son at one point in time registered as an anarchist. Okay, so my son was actually registered an anarchist for 6 months. I don't know where he came from.
So she
And
just needed to get the signatures from the Republicans to get on the ballot. but
right,
she
and no,
didn't.
she didn't. A Republican had to do that for her
Okay.
because
So-
only somebody who lives in your area that is of that party can get those signatures. So I couldn't go and get signatures from my judge of election from across the street over there because that's a different precinct. So all the signatures I got from me to get on the ballot were from my precinct. Just like the people running for commissioner could just get Ward 8, that's a little larger, that includes all 4 precincts in Ward 8. We're special, we have 4 precincts, all the rest of the wards have 3. I have no idea why. So that's kind of how that works. And for larger ballots, like there were appellate court judges, so I could get signatures only from Montgomery County for a judge that was running statewide because I live in Montgomery County. So there's a whole bunch of rules and requirements on doing all this stuff. Okay, where was I going? I think the next thing I want to discuss is, we've lost a couple people. The next thing I want to discuss is what I see are long-term goals being of this group. And I basically want us to be a communications hub and an information hub. I would like to have a website so people that aren't on Facebook can go to us, and I want the landing page to be a calendar with every single event, meeting, that's happening in Lower Merion and Narberth to be on that calendar. So you could actually click on an event and be taken to register for the event. After the event has been done, and let's say you missed the event, you can click on that event and see that we missed a planning commission thing, and I would love to be able to click on that and see Dan Mercer's, yes, I've used your name, Dan. Dan Mercer's wonderful synopsises of the meetings there with a link to the recording of the meeting, so that you could go to one place and kind of get an overview of what's happening in the whole township and borough. And that is my long-term goal. And by having that, it would be the civics, it would be everybody. It would be one place to go to make it easy to get involved. Now you have to figure out, where do I go to find this information? And I would even include the Democratic and Republican committees of the area, because that's where you would go to find out which Democratic candidates are running or which Republican candidates are running. I want all this in one spot, but I'm going to need a ton of volunteers to do it. And that's where I'm working on gathering. To start out now, I would like as much stuff as possible to go onto the Facebook page, but it's not, because everything goes down, like all the information isn't in one place. I'm going to see about just getting a simple calendar program, and then maybe we can get a whole bunch of people. We'll have a thing that would say, get your event on the calendar and fill out this form. to get your event on the calendar, and we can start doing it that way. And then from there, maybe get volunteers who would go to these meetings. And, school board, anything, even the school board committee meetings, that you just write a 2-line blurb about that gives people the highlights. I mean, you don't have to say how much they spent for this, that, or the other thing, unless you think that spending $50,000 for putting in R in the middle of the field is something ridiculous. But, that would be where I want this to go. And Annie does too. And Lisa Praz has also stepped up. And so, but we need volunteers because it's something I can't do on my end. Go, Sandra.
I'm happy to help with that. In the Facebook group for now, one thing we could do is create a file and just have a list. And
Of events?
Yeah, so it could just be, the next, I spent some time getting the rest of the school board meetings for March in my calendar, but it could just be a chronological list of upcoming meetings. And, if you got me the links to where I would find like the Civic Association meeting information and stuff, if you could point me in that direction, I could put the file together. I can even, we can color code it. So because there will be a lot of school board meetings. If people don't care about school board meetings, but they want the Civic Association meetings. And then at least that'll be easy enough to update. And we can either put in a recording, if there's a recording link, or just move old events down to the bottom after they happen or something like that. Until the website happens.
A good start. And it could also get us to a point where we start having everything there. So then it makes sense to do a website.
Yep.
Yeah, because GoDaddy's always sending me 30% off to do this, 30% off to do that. And, I could just do a real simple one. Somebody gave me the name for the LM Civic Space, which I like, the LM Narber Civic Space. So I know, so I have a 3:00 meeting also. If anybody has any more questions, give me a hand raise and I'll answer. And if you have any ideas, please, I don't want this to be all about me. I want this to be community. So I want as many people involved as possible. If we can just, talk to people, send them our way. If we can find more people to do stuff, that would be good. If you don't want to speak up right now and you want to think about it, you have to stand up for Lower Merion at gmail.com. So, and also sign up for our mailing list if you aren't on it yet. And that would also be done at